My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of The Green Knight. And I've been really looking forward to this movie. I thought the trailers looked incredible, and A24 is a very hit or miss studio for me. They make masterpieces like The Witch, Ex Machina, and other excellent movies like American Honey and Eighth Grade and The Killing of a Sacred Deer. But then they also make movies like Forced Reformed, High Life, Forced Cow, which I just find to be terrible, boring movies. And it's very, you can go either or with some. And, well, they're never really accessible to the mainstream audience. Like, after this movie ended, I heard one girl say, that was the worst movie I've ever watched in my life. And a guy went up to me, he's like, did you guys get anything that happened? And I'm usually more on the positive side of things. Like, everybody hated The Witch when I saw it in theaters, but I think that movie is just absolute perfection. But I land on the opposite side with this one. I do not get the hype behind The Green Knight. And I know that so many people on Twitter are just being like, oh, well, they just don't understand it. If you don't like this movie, you're an idiot. And I just hate that kind of attitude. It just kind of gives people the sense that your opinion is supposed to be better and more superior than everyone else's opinions. And I just hate that kind of talk because I got this movie. I understood what it was trying to do. I just found it to be a terribly bland and boring movie that I have no interest in ever revisiting. I will say that Dev Patel is really good in this movie for what the role requires him to do, and the other actors do a fine job as well. Ralph Ineson has one of the best voices in movie history, and I love him in everything he's in, and this movie, despite his minor role, is no exception. Barry Keoghan, who was in The Killing of a Sacred Deer, is in this movie for a bit, and he's really great here. Alicia Vikander's good, Sean Harris is good. The entire cast does a good job, and this movie definitely has atmosphere. I made some complaints about Fear Street Part 2 and 3, about how they look too crisp and clean, and this is how those movies should have looked. This movie has atmosphere, and it just draws the viewer into this world, and that element of the movie is really well done, but everything at a script level completely fell flat for me. The entire essence of what this movie is going for is that you understand the main character, Galen, not to be confused with the singer of Moonlight Desires, Gowan. But I never had a firm understanding of who this character was. He's introduced, and right off the bat, there's some bad dialogue. They're like, tell me a story about you. I don't have one. You don't have one yet. I thought that was very heavy-handed. But the movie's relying on the fact that you understand that this character is dishonorable, that he's arrogant. And I didn't actually really understand that until far later into the movie than I should have. And I don't think that's on me. Whenever I look back on the movie, there's no clear indicators of that early on. He's just kind of a blank slate. Like, we see him get drunk early on. We see him do a few questionable things, but it wasn't until the scene, if you've seen the movie, you know what scene I'm talking about, that I'm just like, oh, this guy's very dishonorable and disloyal, and I don't really think I like him. But that was set up like an hour and a half into this 2-hour long movie. Before that, there wasn't any clear indicators, and I think that's just bad writing. And the story itself never worked for me. Like, I think it was set up very well. He slices off the head of this tree guy, and then the tree guy's like, okay, I'm still alive, and in 1 year, I'm going to do the same thing to you. And then he has to go on a quest to get his head chopped off. That is the story of this movie. And not for 1 second do I understand why he would go ahead with this quest. I know he was told to by Sean Harris's character, who I guess was King Arthur? Is that correct? Hold on. Yep, it's correct. But I just don't understand why anybody would go on this quest to get the head cut off. Like, I know this movie's trying to deconstruct legends and how the stories are told, but like, if he maybe started turning into like the tree creature or something like that, so there's some kind of stake, so I'm like, okay, I understand why he's going on this journey, but there wasn't that. So the entire purpose of this journey is just really not effective. And then he comes across all these different challenges and things he has to do or people that he meets. And I didn't find any of them to be really interesting. You take a movie like Pan's Labyrinth, where this girl has to do 3 different tasks to gain her place at the throne of the underworld. And every single task is memorable. Every single task revealed things either about the characters or the world they're in. And it's just done masterful in Pan's Labyrinth. But not a single quest or person that this guy meets in this movie stayed with me at all. I don't think it added any new layers to the characters. At points it feels like exposition heavy, where it's telling you specifically what the movie's about, but it doesn't say so in any interesting way, and not in any way that really resonated with me. You got a scene with giants, and it just kind of happens, and it's done, and that's it. And I don't really think it was interesting. And I should mention that this movie is incredibly slow and boring. Like, I don't mind it if a movie is a slow burn and allows the audience to get immersed into the atmosphere, into the time period, into the world. Like, Blade Runner 2049 is a complete masterpiece, but there's interesting characters, there's interesting ideas that it's exploring in that movie, and I just didn't get any of that here. Honestly, I kept checking my Fitbit, being like, oh, I got another 20 minutes until this movie is done. I was never remotely entertained or intrigued in what was going on. I don't need action in my movies, but I do need some entertainment, some thought-provoking ideas, and that was completely absent. I know everyone loves the ending, but I didn't like the ending much at all. I get what the movie is going for, but once again, the main character wasn't established well enough for that to have any sort of impact. And then when the movie ended, I just thought that was the easy way out. Like, I don't know what this movie is trying to say, but it seems very easy the way the movie ends. I know everyone else is losing their minds for this movie. It's getting amazing reviews, and I just don't get it. This movie did nothing for me. The main character wasn't established well, and he's just not very interesting to watch throughout. I didn't think this movie had a good pace to it. I don't think this movie had anything interesting to say. I don't think it does anything really all too well. Like I said, it does have atmosphere, the performances are good, but aside from that, this movie is completely forgettable. So I'm going to go ahead and give The Green Knight a 3 out of 10. I know that's not a popular opinion, but I have to be honest with all my reviews, and that's what you will get with me. You might not always agree with me, but you will always get my honest opinions on movies. But anyways, did you see The Green Knight? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.